Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Crow Country. In the last part we entered the haunted hilltop area and got past our first mini-boss, and now that we've let Julie into the utility corridor in the southeast, the enemies here in the hilltop have changed. This little goo enemy is notable in that I believe they can poison you with their physical attacks, so watch out for that, but thankfully their movement is slow and staggered enough where you can very easily guide them around to get around them. I do tend to, in this game, take the methodology where I run around enemies rather than gun past them, despite them giving you, honestly, more than enough ammo with the handgun to do just that. It's an old globe. Looks pretty fragile. So many places I never visited. A phone, by the sound of it. Crystal Crow right there. Hello?
You came back.
Who is this?
I'll admit I'm glad to see you're up and about. Oh, the tenacity of youth.
He's gone. Creepy. So we got some paintings around here, like Harmony Will Fade by Alcuna Licenza. And if we go over to the piano, if you recognize the letters that were capitalized there, they were F-A-D-E, which are on the musical scale. Play that on the piano, the painting will open, you can access what's behind it. Before I talk about the other paintings, though, we got this here. The Flames of Hell. And over here we got the history's deadliest poisons. But also there's the pulling of the pin. What the bookshelves have is random, and like a specific document talked about earlier in the game, there's some you don't want to pull. If it's the history's deadliest poisons or the Flames of Hell, pulling that will either set off poison gas or a flamethrower that will damage you outright. However, if it's pulling of the pin, you just get a grenade, so hey, if you get that, good for you. Song in a Cage by Lasciare Suonare. And over here we got Melody of the Dead by Allegretto Vivaci. Now, the one behind us right now, I'm saving to open for later as we can't actually grab what's behind there yet, but we can open that doorway there. The clocks need regular winding, but please don't attempt it without the correct tool, which we actively got because of the safe that was in the southeast utility corridor. Here's a painting of Audrey the Undying, blamed for midnights between 10:20 and 11:15. I refuse to put my hand in there, not happening. Mara is in fact smarter than James Sunderland. So using the crank we got over in the southeast utility corridor, we can wind the clocks to 10:20 and 11:15, and doing so will make the gemstone that Audrey has in their mouth come on out, which we can then grab. Large gemstone, very egg-shaped, so we can use that over at the Goose Room back in Fairytale Town to do stuff in that area. But now we're in the northeast utility corridor. Notably, enemies in this game are also slightly randomized in that there's a couple that can show up in various rooms, but which ones are there will kind of depend not only on where you are in the game, but just random chance the models might swap even. Watch out for small explosives laying on the ground. They're rigged to blow up when touched. Keep a keen eye. Some of them might look fairly similar to items you might want to pick up. That's a note that won't really come into play for a little bit still. That was a gunshot. That wasn't done by me. I don't like that. Going over here, though, for one thing, the item in this locker is randomized like several other things in the game, but this lever here will open this door, giving us a shortcut to this area through the Iron Maiden in the dungeon. It's some kind of diagram. Looks like the crank goes to that machine, a chain goes to that machine, and gasoline goes to the flamethrower. Now, that specific puzzle set for getting the items to the construction site, there's a lot more hints to that than a lot of other items in the game, and I get why because of the amount of routes you can take at this point, but it definitely feels like overkill. Maintenance staff. There's a button behind a panel on the back of the wooden crow house. You can use it to access the controls for the big animatronic crow. So that's over in the center. Tolman's Records, March 27th, 1988. Alarm triggered at 2:15 a.m. 2 more guests appeared in the pool room. This time I made sure the cameras were running. So, we have proof. They came out of the pool. They're worse than the first. Broken, wrong shape, falling apart. I feel heartless describing them so, but I have no other words. Boss said we wouldn't be able to move the like we did with the first guest. He spent 23 minutes trying to talk to them. Then he shot them both. Well, at this point, I'd say it's pretty safe to say the guests in question are probably the enemies we're fighting, but why are they here at all? Now, we heard a gunshot go off a moment ago, and it's because there's a room we can actually enter over that direction. And I'm going to do that in a moment, but I wanted to come over here to grab any items that might be over here in this Crystal Crow without more enemies having spawned in, let alone other hazards that could spawn in a few moments or anytime in the near future. You want to make sure that you're pretty watchful even going through rooms you've already been in the game for specific reasons. Crow moved the electric battery charger to the southeast underground level. I know that means you won't have access to it anymore. I think that was the idea. Well, that's annoying because his office is right over there, but that's clearly an electrified gold door and we don't have a key for that. State Court, 185 Central Avenue Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30303, United States. Legal summons, final warning. Dear Mr. Crow, we sent you a letter 14 days ago and have not yet heard back. This is a serious matter that demands your immediate attention. You should know that Elaine Marshall's family have appointed a lawyer. The case against you is being prepared as I write this letter. Sincerely, G. Williams, State Court. D. Pike Park Operations, but this door that is usually a silver key door is unlocked for some reason. Oh. Oh shit, he's dead. I guess he shot himself. Should I call the police? There's a handgun lying next to him. I better not touch it. Yeah, best to probably not contaminate the scene. Edward had his office door electrified. Decently high voltage, too. I turned off all the mains power, but the door was still electrified, so I think he must have hooked it up to a generator somewhere on the underground level. It might seem a little weird that they have notes like that so close to each other when they effectively state the same thing, but you'd be surprised how easy it is to miss a note in this game. I think on my first run, I missed over a fourth of them just because I didn't have the camera facing the right direction. Also, a bit of a word of advice when it comes to the Crystal Crows and Crow Quest on your second playthrough Beyond. The bullets largely won't count for hitting them unless they're pretty much center mass. The legs will not count, that always feels a little weird, but I kind of get it at the same time. The following doors are now locked electronically. Dungeon, Mermaid, Cyclops, Wolf, Serpent, Crypt, Ophelia. They can only be opened via the dungeon's computer terminal. So they're all connected somehow. Filing cabinet, pretty well organized. Edward has pulled all the funding for Cosmic Future, and we've halted construction. He said it was just a temporary delay, but I can tell when he's lying. Something is seriously wrong with Edward. He looks sick, but at the same time, there's a kind of manic energy in his eyes. I asked Tolman about it, but he gave me the silent treatment, so whatever it is, I think they're in on it together. I tried to spy on Edward and Tolman during their meeting. It sounded like they were trying to talk to someone, a third person in the room who wasn't talking back. But they were talking like how you talk to a baby or a young child, speaking slowly, using simple language. What's going on? TV here. Videotape in the salon?
This is a message for Edward Crow from Douglas Pike. Edward, we've been friends for over 30 years. You wouldn't trust me with the running of your theme park, a task I have relished. You have always shown me kindness and always paid me well for my work. However, I can no longer remain silent. Edward Crow, your crimes have not gone unnoticed, nor will your sins go unpunished. As for Elaine Marshall, I hope she never forgives us, for none of us deserve it. Goodbye.
That's the end. Okay. No key items in there otherwise, so I guess let's just move on from that. Hello. Are you alright, ma'am? Ugh, my head. I threw up. Hey, it's alright, don't worry about it. Can I ask, did something happen to you? It only grazed me. I thought I'd be fine. I don't even know what it was. My head is pounding. My stomach is... Ah, right. You were attacked. I feel dizzy. I have something that might make you feel better, at least for a little while. You can use, I think, any of the healing items, but I tend to use an antidote. You should take this. Thanks. I think that actually helped. Oh, I'm so rude. What's your name? I'm Mara. Thanks, Mara. I'm Natalie. Natalie Crow. What are you doing here, Mara? I'm actually looking for your father, for Edward Crow. What on earth do you want with father? You filed a missing persons report, didn't you? Yes, I did. You're who they sent? Yeah, I'm Agent Mara Forrest. But you're so... What? What about the man I spoke to on the phone? Detective Harrison... something... Detective Harrison James. He couldn't make it. Problem with his car. So they sent you instead? Yep. This is your father's office? He's not in there. I've been out here for hours, and I haven't heard a sound. Be that as it may, I'd still like to take a look inside. Do you know how to get in? That's going to be difficult. You'll need the key. It's a big fancy gold one. Gold key. Got it. And you'll have to turn off the electrified door handle. How do I do that? No idea. It wasn't electrified last time I was here. Father must have only recently had it installed. Why? What's he hiding in there? End of conversation, I guess. Slightly eerie, but okay. Up this stairway, though, we find ourselves once again in Fairytale Town. This is the stage we couldn't access through a locked door. Crystal Crow right there, and hey, some shotgun shells right here as well. Electronic panel, there's a button. It's not working. I think the curtain has to be fully raised first. It's the fairy. She's facing the other way. Can someone from maintenance please varnish the Ocean Kingdom storage room door, or else just replace the door entirely? It's made from really old wood and it's starting to crumble. It's not exactly fire safe. Good to know, I guess. It's a pulley. Time to move up the curtain. You actually have to move this down several times. I think you do have to get it all the way raised up to the top, and you do need to do this eventually in the game in order to actually progress, so you might as well while we're here. Us being back in Fairytale Town is rather fortuitous timing, though, because we did just get that gemstone from Ajmalek the Undying, so we can use that over in the Goose Room over here. Hello, thank you for helping me before. I have never found that bronze key without you. There's some items scattered across here, but you want to watch out for the babies on the ground, as they are surprisingly fast little enemies. Hello?
Listen, I had no idea what the roots were for. How could I have known?
What roots? What are you talking about?
There are 7 in total, and I cut them down, cut them open.
You cut them up? What?
All but one. We left one intact for posterity, we thought. What a farce.
He's gone. Okay. I noticed the Seven Seas Mermaids use the same kind of battery as the Giant Crow. Not a great idea, those kinds of batteries aren't waterproof. Those mermaids are going to need constant maintenance. Now, there's a puzzle in here, but we actually don't have any of the items we can use to solve it for now. So I'm largely here just to make this into a shortcut back into the main part of Fairytale Town. And if you could take care of any of these babies, which I think their actual name is goblins, you might as well. It's full of water. Alright, they got a pipe over here. It leads all the way over towards the stage. It's connected to a pipe that puts water on the fairy's head for some reason. I failed to see what the show would have been in that case, but okay. I think it's a walking stick. It's stuck. I hope nobody needed to use that stick. So now that we're back in Fairytale Town, there's a couple of things we can get done. And for the order of operations I want to do things in, my first destination is actually the staff lounge back on the northwest corner of the map, as I want to go drop a save over there. Why? Because by this point in the plot, a room that was closed before in this area has opened up, and it is the worst feeling room in the game in every way imaginable with what this game's puzzles are otherwise designed like, to the point where it's one of the frequent complaints from the fan base. And while there is technically a time that's better to do it later on, that requires so much back and forth, I just didn't want to bother. Also, good showcase there for the splash damage that grenades have. Only 18 crows remain, though. We're getting there. So, at this point, you might remember here in Fairytale Town, there was a door that weirdly looked like Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron. I don't know precisely when that opens. Future me, if you can find anything about that, please post so on the screen. But at this point, it is open, and we can do the quote-unquote puzzle within here. You might as well also grab any ammo in the Crystal Crow that's here as well. Warning! I shouldn't have to say this, but for your safety and my sanity, please do not eat any of the mushrooms. Search each area carefully. Smaller items like antidotes and grenades can be easy to overlook. That's also very handy for any traps that at this point in the game are going to become a lot more common. Crystal Crow in this room, right here in the middle of the table. It's a hanging scroll. By decree of His Royal Highness, the Monarch of Many Mushrooms, the court finds the following to be innocent and harmless. Blusher, Morel, Shiitake. There's a button on the Mushroom King's head.
I invited Almedina Fallow to dinner, alas I find myself dining alone. I'm afraid the death cat will be thrown to the pigs.
Now you might notice those are all, in fact, types of mushrooms. In fact, there's another thing over here on the other side. The court finds the following to be deadly and dangerous. Deathcap, Destroying Angels, Deadly Dappling. There are 6 mushrooms on the table that you can eat. 3 of them do nothing to you. 3 of them will either do heavy damage or heavy damage and poison you. You might think from this the puzzle will be, okay, only eat the ones that are safe. Or maybe go back and forth between a safe one and a non-safe one. No, you need to eat them all. If the ones that were safe healed you a little bit, this would be a little easier to deal with, especially if it didn't count for high rank healing counts. But you just need to kind of face tank the damage and hope you survive it, which is why I'm constantly checking my health here, as anytime I eat, there's a chance I could just die instantly. It sucks. There's so many other ways they could have handled this room, but for some reason it just feels weirdly plain and unthought out compared to the other rooms in the game. Notably, there is a healing point you can use to kind of cheese this later on towards the very end of the game. So if you don't mind on waiting for the reward from this, I'd recommend just waiting till then, especially if you're trying to do a high-ranking run. But I'd rather have the reward for this sooner rather than later. With all 6 eaten, let's talk to the king and see what our reward is.
Thank you for dining with me, stranger. I opened myself up to you fully.
I'm a little mushroom boy. I use my mushroom energy to grant you a wish. Tell me, what is that you wish? What's that? You want to improve the power of your handgun? To each their own, I guess. Wish granted.
And thus, the handgun's power has been increased. They give you a lot of options for the combat in this game when it comes to power-ups and all that. You can do pretty well without that. But hey, I'm going to make the most of that I can, you know? I actually held off on LPing this game for a little bit just to see if someone would discover maybe there is a trick to that puzzle, but as far as I know, nothing's been found, and there's something about that that just really annoys me. So, we got the gemstone a few moments ago, so now if we put it into this goose head right here, we can actually drive the goose in the distance over to here so we can grab the chain off its neck to go use that at the construction site. Despite being the first area of the game, I do find it interesting how much interplay there is between Fairytale Town and Haunted Hilltop in specific. In that regard, I also do love the scale of this game because all the routes are pretty quick and easy to get around while also having their own risks. Let's get that grody chain off your neck. Oh my god. Well, we got the chain over to the construction site. We have everything we need here. Notably, though, when we get back to the construction site, now there's going to be an enemy in there. To an extent, I'm actually not sure how enemy spawns in this game work, because the enemies you kill don't respawn. New ones just spawn in with them. But I'm not sure if it takes you, say, accessing a room and then leaving for an enemy to spawn in some cases. Like, I feel like that's the case here with this specific puddle-type enemy. Put the chain on the winch, get over here to this green bucket I mentioned last time we were in here, and grab the shotgun laser I forgot to grab at the time. You can fuel the flamethrower, use the crank handle on the pipe in the distance, or put the chain on in any order, as long as you operate them in the correct order when the time actually comes. The annoying thing is, though, I believe that pipe where you need to use the crank handle, you can't walk over that, but I think that enemy can attack you over it, so you do need to kind of bait the enemy out into a certain direction in the case they're here. Or you could just, you know, kill them. Shooting them in the face, I think, does pretty good damage, but also a grenade is pretty much guaranteed to be an instant kill. Pour the water down there. And now that that's happened, we can use the winch to raise whatever's down there. Oh, that's just a face in what looks to be, I guess, ice? I think it's actually meant to be resin. And once I get this enemy out of the way, we can go light it up with a flamethrower to melt it, and we'll be able to grab that face. And if you remember correctly, we saw a face that looks like this over in Haunted Hilltop, so this is the partner for the Witchwood area that we need. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 4, we're going to go take the Woeful Mask over there and see what happens. See you guys then.